Let's talk about the Roth 401k. Is it really the best option? Just because I invest in Roth, it doesn't mean the Roth is the right option for you. It is going to depend on your current tax rates, your time horizon to retirement, and your projected retirement income. I'm going to do some comparisons between how you're taxed now and how you save money on paying taxes later on in your retirement. So let me run some scenarios here. I'm going to first do the single individuals, and then I'll do the married couples later on in this video. Let's assume that you're 35 years old and single, and your gross income is $100,000. And after your standard deduction of $14,600, your taxable income is $85,400 based on the 2024 tax brackets. So the first $11,600 will be taxed at 10%. The next $35,550 will be taxed at 12%, and the next $38,250 will be taxed at 22%. For the Roth 401k, because you're paying the taxes on the contribution now, you want to assume that you're paying at the highest marginal tax rate. The income scenario shows at 22% marginal tax rate. So let's say that you're contributing $15,000 to your Roth 401k. Multiplying that by 22% in the marginal tax rate is going to be $3,300. You're not going to get billed for this or anything, but you're essentially paying $3,300 upfront to the IRS when you make the Roth 401k contribution because you're paying your taxes upfront. But what's awesome about the Roth 401k is that the money you put in will also grow tax-free, and then you can withdraw your contributions, earnings, and interest tax-free starting at the age of 59 and a half. So assuming that you're 35 years old and starting with $15,000 a year in Roth contributions every year with a 2% annual inflation increase in contributions, you could grow your Roth 401k to over $1.4 million in tax-free money if the market performs an 8% average annual return. So what can you do with $1.4 million in tax-free money? Well, keep in mind that I adjusted the Roth 401k with a 2% annual increase in inflation. So assuming that your Social Security pension is $20,000 a year and you have some traditional 401k with over $41,000 a year because you have your employer match that went directly to the traditional portion of your 401k. So your total taxable income is $61,750 and your standard deduction is $14,600 under the 2024 tax bracket. Obviously, the standard deduction will increase with inflation in 25 years. But for simplicity's sake, I'm going to use the 2024 tax brackets. So the first $11,600 will be taxed at 10%, and the next $35,550 will be taxed at 12%. And most retirees would like to pay less in taxes in retirement. So the 12% marginal tax rate is a good target rate for someone with $60,000 a year in taxable retirement income, because every dollar after the $61,750 will be taxed at 22%. But does it really matter if you go over $1, $5, or $100? Not really. It will matter more when you hit $1,000 in the 22% marginal tax rate, in my opinion, right? So if you want to retire with $100,000 a year and pay 12% in marginal tax rate, this is where the Roth 401k comes into play. Using the same scenario with $1.4 million invested in the Roth 401k, the 2% withdrawal rate would give you $28,000 a year. A 3% withdrawal rate would give you $42,000 a year. And a 4% withdrawal rate would give you $56,000 a year, depending on how your portfolio is diversified and grows annually. So what do you think is better? Investing $500 a month, making 10% return, or investing $1,000 a month, making a 7% return on investment? You can't figure out how much you can invest without a budget. There's no way around it. I personally tested out the budgeting app called YNAB, and it's not just an app that can track your income and expenses, but it can even help you create a plan to pay down your student loans, car loans, personal loans, or credit cards a lot faster. So if you're ready to change your life by getting out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle, you can get a free trial without any credit card information by using the link in the description below. So with $61,000 a year in taxable income and $42,000 a year in tax-free income, that's over $100,000 a year in retirement income. In 25 years, that's all going to be adjusted with inflation. Assuming that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, or TCJA, remains in place with the current tax rates past 2025, you have to remember that the tax rates will get lower and lower because the IRS is adjusting it by inflation every single year. The threshold for the marginal tax rates will change every year. The standard deduction will also increase every year. However, if Congress decides not to extend President Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017, which ends on December 31st, 2025, then the marginal tax rates will go back to the previous levels. The first tax bracket will remain the same at 10%, but the second bracket will change from 12% to 15%. That's a significant increase. The 22% bracket will change to 25%. The 24% will go back to 28%, and 32% will go to 33%. And 37%, if you're in the top marginal tax rate, it will change back to 39.6% like it was in 2016. I don't know what Congress will do in 2025, but it's going to depend on how Congress negotiates with the White House going into 2025 and how everything goes in the election, depending on when you're watching this video. So what if you're retiring as a married couple filing your taxes jointly with both a traditional 401k and a Roth 401k? Assuming that you're married and filing your taxes jointly during your retirement, let's say you're going to collect $25,000 a year for each spouse from Social Security and $40,000 a year combined from your traditional 401k and your spouse's traditional 401k. Your total gross income is going to be $123,500, and I'm going to use the 2024 standard deduction for married couples, which is $29,200. So the first $23,200 will be taxed at 10%, and the next $71,000 will be taxed at 12%. Your total taxes are significantly lower than the single individuals and heads of households. Your gross income of $123,500 will only put you at a 12% marginal tax rate. And the first dollar after $123,500 is taxed at 22% for the year 2024. So if you and your spouse feel like you need more in retirement, you could use your Roth 401k to supplement your retirement income to maintain the 12% marginal tax rate. That $1.4 million is completely tax-free after the age of 59 and a half. Just withdrawing 2% would give you $28,000, 3% would give you $42,000, and 4% would give you $56,000, right? So that's pretty incredible just in the Roth dollars. That's all maintaining the 12% marginal tax rate. How incredible would that be, right? And most of you watching my videos on somewhere between 22 and 24% in the marginal tax rate. Is the Roth 401k contribution always right for you? Not necessarily. I would strongly argue that if I am close to the 32% marginal tax rate or at the top end of the 24% marginal tax rate, then I would strongly consider mixing both traditional and Roth to bring the tax rates down to 24%. And I strongly encourage you also to get with your CPA or whoever does the taxes for you. And you can always schedule your first session with me by visiting firestation.com/consultation. You can use the tax calculator to find out how much of your contribution can reduce your taxes now by splitting the taxes. If you decide to do both, keep in mind that the 401k contribution limit is a combination of both Roth and traditional. If you invest $15,000 in your Roth 401k, then you can only invest up to $8,000 in your traditional 401k if you're under the age of 50 in the calendar year 2024. And something else to consider is the state you're going to be retiring in. Does it come with the state income tax? And some states won't tax your traditional 401k distribution, so be sure to look that up in your state website. You should also consider your retirement age. If your time horizon is like 20 or 30 years, you should calculate to find out if your interest and earnings will outgrow your annual tax breaks. You can download my 401k calculator for absolutely free by visiting firestation.com/resources. You should also keep in mind that you can't shelter tax breaks forever inside your traditional 401k. Every traditional account comes with what's called the required minimum distributions, or RMDs. Your Roth 401k does not come with that. And most of you would have to start paying taxes on your traditional 401k in our 70s, right? And you can avoid the RMD by converting the traditional to Roth after you retire from the workforce, but you have to remember that you will owe income tax at the time you make the conversion. And if you're married and filing your taxes jointly, don't just calculate your retirement income, but also calculate your spouse's retirement income. But even if your spouse is unemployed, your spouse could still contribute to what's called a spousal Roth IRA. you can essentially double your Roth IRA contributions and increase your tax-free income. The bottom line is that investment accounts like Roth 401K, Roth 403B, or Roth TSP will allow you to grow those dollars tax-free after making your Roth contributions. And I would even argue that some high income earners in their 30% still need to put some money in Roth because those people will have the same or slightly higher income. And this has been another beast of a video, and I hope you got a lot out of it.